right there. Okay. And welcome. Okay, so this is now the 8th meeting of, oh, wait. I have an echo now. Okay, there we go. This is the 8th meeting of the Special Legislative Commission to study and examine the civil service law, personnel administration rules, hiring procedures and bylaws for municipalities, including those not subject to the civil service law and state police hiring practices. Actually, this is the 9th meeting, isn't it? Time flies. My name is Representative Kenneth Gordon, and I am the co-chair along with Senator Mike Brady. Is the senator on yet? Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to start as we do with a roll call. I guess before we do, I'll tell you that the purpose of today's meeting is to hear from Marcella King, who represents the Correctional Officers Union. I think Marcella is leading a group of folks that are going to talk on behalf of the Correctional Officers Union. And we're going to begin with reports from the subcommittees. Today we have a report from Subcommittee Chair Senator Michael Moore, and that his topic is the civil service laws from the perspective of departments who are in civil service. So before we do, let's, for the benefit of the public, I'm going to go through a roll call. And I know Marcella King is here because you're presenting. Michael Papani, I saw you on here.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. Tom Reddy.
I'm on. Good morning.
Good morning. Sophia Hall. I think Ariel Sharma is your designee. Anyone from the ACLU? Okay. Neil Osborne. I'll point if someone comes in late. I'll just point that out just so the public knows who's here. Christopher Del Monte, Chief Del Monte. Okay. Lawrence Calderon. James Wona.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. Jeffrey Lopes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning. Stephen Gabriel. Colonel.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning. Robert Quinnen.
Good morning, present.
Good morning. Eric Estepanis. Okay. Ron Renault. I think Richard Sweeney's going to be joining us a little late. You're not here yet, right? Okay. Tom Lyons. I see Secretary Poppy here.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning. Jesse Flynn, are you here? Yeah, no. Are you here? Jen Breaker.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. Kimberly Parr. Or anyone else from the AG's office? Okay. Representative China Tyler. Representative Maria Robinson. Representative Natalie Higgins.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. Representative Patricia Haddad. Representative Tim Whalen. Senator Michael Moore, I see you there.
I'm here. Thank you.
All right. Senator Edward Kennedy.
I'm here, Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
Good morning. Someone from Senator Bruce Tarr's office. Okay. I want to move to approval of our minutes from our last meeting. It was sent to you recently. If you had a chance to look at them. Okay, here's Ann Landry from the Attorney General's office. Can I have a motion to either?
On the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Move approval on the minutes.
Okay. Any discussion? Any changes to the minutes? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Say nay. Okay. The minutes are approved.
Okay, could I interrupt for 1 second? Senator Brady will be joining by phone.
Okay.
shortly.
Shortly.
Yeah.
Okay. Then what I think I'll do is let's just take 5 minutes and jump ahead to the end of the agenda, then come back into the presentation so Senator Brady can be here for all of it. What I'd like to present or put out as a proposal to the commission is that we have now heard from the various points of view of those members who are appointed as commissioners to our commission. And we're beginning to hear reports from the subcommittees that we've broken into, and I think all of us know there are 4 of them. So we'll have, I would like to have, if it's acceptable to everyone, another meeting so we hear from 2 of the subcommittees and then a third. I'd like to put out a proposal that we schedule a meeting to hear from members of the public. So those folks that have been watching have an opportunity to provide comment to the challenge that we have, to the work that we're doing. Is that, and any reaction to that? Is that acceptable to everybody?
Yes.
I think that's a good idea, Mr. Chairman.
It's good.
Would
Okay.
it make sense to do that as the next meeting, even before the subcommittees finish their presentations?
I personally think so. I'll throw that out too. I was actually thinking the same. And I was thinking, because we looked at our calendars and things like, and all, that Cody, you're on here, January 21, was that the date we were looking at?
Yes.
Just to be efficient, I'll throw out a date. If January 21 is okay, that'll be our next meeting, and that would be open to the public, because that gives us enough time to send notice to the public so they can come in. We can judge the response. If it turns out that we need another meeting because we have so much response, we can always do that. That gives us enough time to do that. But also it gets us past the December holidays so that people, again, aren't really affected by scheduled vacations, things like that. That was my proposal. If any discussion on that?
It would require the rescheduling of a hearing on my part, if there is any other date in January, but I wouldn't rule out rescheduling the hearing that I have for January 21st.
Let's see. How about if we did? See, the 14th runs into MLK weekend. That's why we didn't go with that. We generally have had, is Fridays best for everybody? Is that we've generally stuck to Fridays. Legislatively, there's a chance that we could have on the other days. How about if we do the 28th? And anybody, is that bad for anybody who's here?
28th works for me.
Anybody have a
I'm with
concern
you.
about the 28th?
28 is fine.
Okay. Okay, so tentatively, let's put that on. Cody, if you could do that. And then we're gonna check with the senator too. As long as it's okay with the senator, we can send out a notice of that. And then that would mean that in maybe a couple of weeks after that, we'll do a meeting with the subcommittee report, the next 2, because our deadline is now the end of March, and that we're now talking about meetings in February, so we still want to have time to prepare our report.
Mr. Chairman, would that be at 10 a.m. as well?
Yeah, I think these work out, because then
Yep.
we have the rest of our day, and we're trying to keep it to 2 hours, and that's why I'm thinking that if our response is significant, then we'll go to the 2 hours and then gauge whether we need another meeting. Tell folks after a certain number of witnesses have signed up, either give them the option of going into the second one, or telling them they may have to if they didn't sign up before others that were filled up. Okay, Chair Brady, is that you calling in on the phone?
Yeah, I'm on the phone. My computer's been having problems lately, so I'm calling in via phone.
Okay. And Commissioner or Ann Landry from the AGO, I saw you were in, so for purposes of the public knowing who's here for our roll call, I've announced that you're here. Thank you for being here.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you,
think
Mr. Chair.
Kim may be joining us shortly as well, in which case she will be representing the AGO, but I'm happy to be here in her stead in the meantime.
Okay, and I think the commissioners all know that you can designate someone if you can't be at a meeting. That's perfectly fine. Okay, we're going to go into our first presentation. Or Senator, did you, Chair Brady, do you have anything that you want to share with us before we go into the first presentation?
No, go right ahead. Go
Okay.
right ahead and go forward with the meeting. Thank you.
So Marcella King and the folks from the Correctional Officers Union, I know you have a slideshow to present, and you're on.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank the chairman, the senators, commissioners, all for the opportunity to give this presentation this morning. My name is Marcella King. I work for the Department of Corrections as an administrative officer 4 within the Policy Development and Compliance Unit. Prior to that, I was a Correction Officer 1 and moved on to Correction Officer 2 prior to getting this position. So I want to give a quick overview of the department and then try to answer as many questions as possible. I've tried to incorporate all the information that has been pretty much consistent throughout our previous meetings and presentations. Go to the next screen. Okay. How do we get to the next slide? I'm sorry, hang on one second. Having technical difficulties here. So this is an overview of the department. You know, the mission is we have 15 correctional facilities. Our mission is to promote public safety by managing offenders while providing care and appropriate programming and preparation for successful reentry into the community. The security levels are pre-release, medium, and maximum security. It is classification driven to ensure appropriate placement into the appropriate security levels with individualized programming and education goals. This helps facilitate reintegration into society. The employment positions through civil service are the Correction Officer 1 entry exams, Correction Officer Head Cook, and Correction Program Officer AB. The cost of each entry-level examination is $100. Again, one of the questions that I have heard consistently through our meetings is, do we think the cost of the exam is an impediment? Yes. However, an applicant receiving financial assistance or is unemployed can apply for a waiver for the examination fee. Unfortunately, there are no preparation courses for the examination. During the hiring process, again, once the civil service unit has conducted the exam, the official eligibility list is updated within 3 months. Then the academy is requested through the DOC. However, it must be approved through that administration and finance. Upon approval, a certified list is established. And then the invitations are sent out to the applicants based on the recruit training class size by the civil service unit. That's when we would utilize that 2N+1 formula. The Human Resource Division begins to contact those applicants who have accepted the invitation 6 to 8 months prior to the start of the upcoming Recruit Training Academy. And then upon confirmation, HRD begins their comprehensive screening, and that would include the background check, physical fitness, psychological, and drug testing, and as well as the onboarding process, which would include the new employee forms, medical insurance, dental, et cetera, until the start of the academy. So it's anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. However, it's an approximate 8-month process from the time the applicant receives notice until the start of the academy. The Correction Officer Cooks is a 6-week program. Correction Officer Program Officer AB is 6 weeks, and Correction Officer 1 is 9 weeks. although the CO1 exams have been conducted annually for 3 consecutive years since 2019, and it's currently scheduled in 2022, it's not beneficial to the department because it's dependent on the administration and finance approval. So an examination can be given and the department is just unable to begin calling those applicants to begin the screening process until the approval process has been completed. Does this fit the needs of the department? Civil service shows that it works for union positions and it's beneficial to obtain those diverse groups, in which we have our recruit manager here to speak on that, Jonathan Cortez, and he'll elaborate a little bit more on the staff demographics that we have within the department. Possible issues that could be considered an impediment or recommendations from the department is, again, we've heard this consistently, is lowering the cost of the examination, reevaluating those testing locations where examinations are administered. You know, it would be beneficial if the location can be easily accessible through public transportation, possibly providing the department with a contact information of those applicants applying for civil service positions to be given to the department so that human resources, along with our recruit manager, can reach out and follow up with those applicants, you know, possibly giving them the upcoming schedule, update any contact information, set reminders such as text messages or robocall to have those pre-recorded messages to ensure applicants receive that notice to appear. You know, the current process right now is civil service sends an email to the applicant. And, you know, we feel that possibly a recommendation would be ensuring that we have multi-levels of communication for those applicants. In the department, we have a director of diversity and equal opportunity, along with the commissioner's diversity and advisory committee. Unfortunately, the director wasn't able to be here, but I have the recruit manager that is going to speak on her behalf.
Sure.
Jonathan Cortez.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jonathan Cortez. I am the recruitment manager for the Department of Correction. And on behalf of Janice Perez, I will be going over the next couple of slides that will be presented to you. Basically, these come from the state's diversity dashboard, which can be found on mass.gov. And without boring you with the intricate details, I'll give you an overview of what these statistics show. And then what they're showing is our total employee base, the slide that's up now. We currently employ 4,407 folks, full-time employees, both in the civil service and non-civil service units. So those are our correction officers, our CPOs, our chefs, our cooks, and of course, administration and executive level folks. So that's everybody at the DOC as it currently stands. For the sake of time, the next few slides speak to the last few years in terms of the numbers of our employees, both as a total whole and non-civil service positions, as well as our civil service positions. And where we're focused on the civil service positions now, we'll kind of get to that. And what we've seen is, although we've seen a drop in the number of folks who are actually taking the exam and are going on the eligibility list from years past, what we have seen over the course of the last 3 years, 2019 to the present, a steady increase in the diversity percentage of our employee base. We've gone from 16.1% in 2019, and comparatively, that stands at 18.1% today. A subtle change on a yearly basis of almost 1% as we've tried to make some efforts in the recruiting aspect of what we're doing, and I'll speak to that in a minute. But that gives you an overview of our numbers. Again, these are state numbers that we're using. We file quarterly reports utilizing this information and doing our audit reports and what have you from the Office of Diversity and Equal Opportunity, which again is a specific office that we have here. And under that, they actually have the Commissioner's Diversity Advisory Council, which Marcella referred to as CDAC. That group, led by the Deputy Director of that office, oversees a group of, it's a subcommittee, 13 members are on that subcommittee. They're actually broken up into 4 different teams. There's a team communication where they're working on our media, our videos, our audio, presentations, things of that nature. we have professional development, we have recruiting and hiring, and we have team outreach. Again, each one is a subcommittee of the full committee working on specific tasks to help maximize our efforts both internally with staff development and externally with the recruitment of diversified candidates from all areas across the state and beyond. Unfortunately, Janice isn't here. She could talk to some of the programs that she's been working on relatively new, but that's a renowned, I should say, a focused area right now. It has been in place for quite a few years, but we're working together to kind of expand on all of the programs, especially some of the internal promotions, staff development with trainings, with leadership and mentorship programs with our own staff. So that's something that we're diligently working on. In terms of recruitment, and that's one of the areas that I am actually obviously oversee as a recruitment manager, and I can speak to what we're doing. Over the course of the last few years, what I've been trying to do here with the commissioner and others is literally get out to the hard to reach places. It's very easy to put an ad on a website. It's very easy to put a post on Facebook or some type of social media. But the reality is that the demographics that we're trying to reach aren't always on these, are either not in the know or not aware of things like the civil service exam as a whole. So what we're doing is we're boots on the ground. We're going to areas in Central Mass, Western Mass, and of course, we're obviously in Eastern Mass where most of our facilities reside. And we're getting down into the neighborhoods, into the community centers, into the Boys and Girls Clubs, the YMCAs, the social service agencies. We have a direct relationship with the Department of Career Services in terms of recruitment, vetting, and referring candidates to positions that we have. So at the end of the day, what it really boils down to is a joint effort between us and the Civil Service Unit to advertise and educate people about what the exam entails. The reality is the statistics show that the Civil Service exam has been efficient and effective tool for us in terms of hiring. But what we need to do is really increase the number of folks that are in that pipeline. As an example, years ago, I'll go back to maybe 2014, we probably had about 6,000 to 7,000 people on our list, and quite a high number of veterans would be on our eligibility list. Today, as recent as the last couple of months, we actually are opening an academy or having an academy in January. And through this process that Marcella outlined earlier in regards to timing or what have you, we've been working diligently to fill a class of 150 folks. And the eligibility test at the Civil Service Unit only had under 1,000 folks who are on that list. That's quite a significant drop from years past. So our mission right now, what I'm charged with, is to build that pipeline again, and in reality, is getting out into the neighborhoods, down to the street level, and really just letting people know what the civil service exam is about, and then trying to help them. And in that sense of help and assistance, Marcella also highlighted some of the areas that we feel might benefit the Civil Service Unit and us, and everybody else as well, is what information is out there that helps folks better understand the civil service exam, what it entails, what the test is about, how to take the test, how to prep for the test, and of course, at the end of the day, how to pay for this test. Because again, unfortunately, not everybody is privy to having known about this entity and how it works. And so not only are we out there trying to talk to folks about the Department of Correction, but then we're going through that extra level of trying to help them navigate through what could be perceived as a daunting task in terms of finding out about the civil service, and then at the end of the day, paying for the exam, and then actually attending the exam, which most often is held out in Eastern Massachusetts. So kind of a difficult thing for many folks to travel to those areas for those exams. But again, these are the things that we're trying to overcome, and hopefully a session like this enlightens everybody onto some best practices that we can all incorporate for a successful endeavor.
I just had one question, if I could. Do you have a specific budget and folks that their specific job is to go out and do recruiting?
Oh, yes, sir. That's, I am actually the recruitment manager. I am the head of that task force, if you will. I work alongside some of the COs and CPOs who are on staff. As a matter of fact, this afternoon, we'll be going down to the National Guard unit in Taunton. And coming with me will be a current CPO who's in our diversity, our staff development department, who was on the block in years past, has served under 3 or 4 different job titles in the office here. And she's going to be coming with me as well. And that's the kind of team effort that we do on a lot of recruitings. If and you know, obviously we work well with the National Guard. We work well with veterans. A lot of our staff are veterans. We've seen a nice uptick in those numbers as well. But that's just part of our outreach. I didn't go over the details of the outreach, but obviously right now we're going to the high schools, we're going to the colleges, we're going to career fairs, job fairs, those that are for the general public. And then obviously in November, there was several veteran-sponsored job fairs that we attended as well throughout the state. One of the things that we've been doing is back in August, there's National Night Out. I was in Worcester at one of the events there. You know, so we're doing the career fair, internship fairs, job fairs. We're doing information sessions. We're just trying to get the word out as best we can, especially in light of the fact that we do have tests coming up in the early part of 2022. So we are advertising and marketing for those exams now.
Thank you. I just want to say I kind of knew the answer, but you actually expanded on it very well. And I think the work that you guys are doing is great for getting more people in. I say that coming from the fire side, and I'll speak a little bit for the police side too. We don't have those resources at the local level to go out and recruit. We don't have the budgets to put someone like yourself in a position just for recruiting. So I just put a little, I mean, anyone else can jump in. I'm just saying it's a little bit more difficult on the public safety side for us to, you know, advertise and so forth or recruit. It's just, I admire what you're doing. I wish I had people on a budget to do that though, but thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. I mean, it takes a concentrated effort, and if I can ad lib to your point, it's not easy for us either, right? And so at the end of the day, there's so much ground to cover, and we're all on a limited budget. So this is where I think that some of the recommendations that we made in terms of working with the civil service unit, the millennials today, the younger generation, emails is not the only way in which they communicate. So text messaging, robo-phone calls, multiple media outlets can help us, especially, you know, somebody like yourself who is saying we don't even have a budget or a person, then you're really kind of relegated to what else is happening out there, who else can help us. And that would be going back to the advertising and the marketing that could probably help us all.
So thank you very much for those questions. And we certainly on this commission have been talking about the need for better marketing all the way around. I appreciate some of the solutions that the proposals you put to us, which would be proposed solutions, including not only the fees that we've certainly talked about, but providing the opportunity to take the exam in places other than Eastern Massachusetts, near public transportation. I mean, these are all the nuts and bolts that we as a commission are really tasked to address, and ways that's what hopefully would be small fixes can make a difference. So I thank you for that. We've been talking about marketing in schools and community colleges and things like that I think could help. I just want to point out that Kim Parr from the AG's office, she's in the chat. She welcomed herself, but I want to publicly, because people watching on stream can't see, I don't think they can see the chat. So I want everyone to know that Kim Parr has been with us for a little while. Senator, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. And I appreciate the outreach that you've talked about doing. Just to add to that, have you reached out to the NAACP in different communities? And also, we have different organizations like the Cape Verdean Association or the Haitian Community Partners, because those are the new different ethnicities in my district. And I just didn't know if you've been able to reach out to those organizations, and if you had trouble reaching those, if I can be of any help, please let me know.
Well, first and foremost, I will accept any and all help. Let's be clear that there is a lot of territory to cover. And as much as we're
Right.
trying to get it on the front line, I know that, for example, we had positions that we were looking to hire in the field in Western Mass. And, I went out to Springfield. I talked to a couple of the state representatives out there, some of the local leaders in the community to kind of build a distribution list, a networking, and so that we could pipeline disseminate some of the job postings that we have. And that's the kind of thing that we're doing across the state. So if I have not met with this particular group that you're referencing, and I don't think I have them on the list, I'd be more than happy to take that information, because we are trying to turn every stone right now. We're going up to the North Shore. We're in Lowell. We're in Lawrence. We're in Roxbury. As a matter of fact, I met with the Goodwill people out in the Boston area, trying to get boots on the ground there. I'm in Springfield, Fall River, Worcester. And again, so every community, and any background, any connection is something that we would gladly take.
Well, I appreciate that, and I apologize. I'm on the phone. My computer's been having problems for the past couple weeks. But basically, if I represent the southeastern part of Massachusetts, and I have a large, diverse community. So any help I can be, please don't hesitate to contact my office. If you don't have my contact information, I'm sure my chief of staff who's on the line, Al, can put it on the screen for anybody to reach us, and I can put you in contact with some of these organizations if you have not had a way to contact them.
Thank you.
Sure, Secretary
Thank you,
Poppy.
sir.
Chairman.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank you all for your efforts at what you're doing. Particularly, your efforts at recruiting veterans and the National Guard as well. I was curious when you said you'd had an uptick in veterans applications, if that also includes women veterans, given that they're now the fastest growing population, and also, obviously a high population in the military.
Yes, ma'am. So what we've done is we can't control who actually applies, obviously. Well, our job is to work with as many veteran groups as possible. We work with Veterans Inc. out of Worcester. I have spoken to Secretary Arena out in Boston. And again, we're working directly with the National Guard now in terms of trying to recruit some of the folks that are coming back from deployment and things of that nature. So we are actively just trying to get the word out. We do have a brochure that specifically speaks to women and opportunities and those who are actually working here. We do have a large women population in terms of FTEs here in existence now. So it's very easy to sell the DOC, if you will, with regards to female employment, and both in the civil service and the non-civil service areas.
Thank you, Secretary. Rob, Commissioner Quinnan.
Chairman.
Thank you. My question, Mr. Cortez, would be if you were able to fulfill, say, top 2 or 3 priorities on your recruitment wish list, what would you try to do, and what do you estimate it might cost to actually do it?
Well, I mean, I think what's very important for us is when we are into these hard to reach areas in these communities where people of color, our jobs, our security jobs, you can get hired with just a high school diploma or a GED, and we hire at the age of 21. So let's play the example of I graduated at 18, but I didn't go to school. I'm working a few jobs, and I want to apply, and I can only be hired at 21. There's a break in the schooling, the homework, the testing capacity. So one of the things that is in our recommendation list, and I think Senator Kennedy spoke to this in an earlier presentation, was either a tutorial or a training, a course prep, whether it be an online YouTube video as to what the civil service exam is, how to prepare for it, how to get ready for it, what it looks like. That would be a big wish list for us to say, when I'm out there and I can share this information with folks and say, well, I'm not a good test taker. I don't even know how to take a test. I haven't taken a test, to kind of prep them. My job is to help them navigate and be successful in their, endeavor to join us. So what I'm trying to do is make this as easy as possible. And that kind of tool would be a great resource. And then, of course, at the end of the day, when folks are applying for a position and having to pay for it in hopes that they score well on an exam and then have to go travel to take said exam, which could be over an hour, is a little challenging to sell, so that would be another, again, it is already in our list of recommendations, public transportation, maybe a mobile exam center of some sort. And then, as was asked earlier, we all want a little bit more money so that we can do a better job of getting out in the field. And so at the end of the day, that would be a bigger line item, but I think that's down the road. Right now, we're just trying to do what we can with what we have, and we're working together with various departments and the leadership here and just trying to maximize our efforts. But thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I point out that while the primary purpose that we're here is to prepare a report to the legislature, it is the case, and I've seen in the chat, it is the case that we have some organizations that represent sources of labor and some organizations that represent potential employment. And to the extent that you want to use the emails just to essentially communicate job openings and job availability, employee worker availability to each other, I think that's another good use of our time in finding jobs for people and filling job openings for organizations. So thank you for that. First of all, Secretary Poppy and Chair Quinnen, your hands are still up. I assume I can take them down. That's okay. Anybody else with any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, Senator Kennedy.
Yes, if I could. It was mentioned that the part of the outreach goes to a lot of different communities, including Lowell, and Lowell is in my district. So I just wanted to ask where and when does that take place in Lowell?
Well, we started working with the Mass Hire Career Centers because they seem to be a central focal point in a lot of areas on a regional basis. And the reason that I went with that network is, to be honest with you, I was an operations manager for 7 years with the Department of Correction. I worked there for many years. So I know the outreach and the networking and the fact that they're local to every area and every region. And so what I've done is I've done information sessions. And what I'll do is I'll post an information session. I'll go to the facility. The center advertises it. And it's just, again, sometimes we do have postings that are live, but sometimes I'm just trying to plant the seeds of not civil service and non-civil service exams, sir.
I'd just like to offer that if, when you have an event like that,
Yes, sir.
if you send a notice to my office, we'll put it on, our Facebook site and our website so that, which would also be helpful. And I would also imagine, there's 3 state representatives from Lowell. I would imagine all of them would be quite willing to do the same. Just another suggestion of how to get the word out, which I think is always helpful. And I guess a follow-up question I would have is, when you do that, what languages are offered there? Does everything have to be in English, or are there other languages, or how do you?
Well, it's primarily handled in English, but I myself am bilingual in Spanish, so I am able to translate and have discussions in Spanish, fluent Spanish. But other than that, there are no other languages that we've been bringing to the table, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to point out that while we've been talking, Neil Osborne, who is the NAACP designee, has joined us and has been here for a little while. So again, so that the public can see that you're here now. And any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. That was really an enlightening presentation, and we really appreciate it. You've made some great suggestions, and I'm expecting many of them will end up in our report. So thank you for that. Our next presentation comes from Senator Michael Moore, who is presenting what they've been doing on the subcommittee dealing with the municipalities in civil service. So why don't you take the floor, Senator?
Actually, Mr. Chair, can I go after the next person?
I think you're the only two.
Okay, can you just give me 5 minutes? I just need to pull over. I'm en route back from
Oh.
Boston,
Okay.
so. I'm approaching my exit right now.
Okay. Drive safely.
Mr. Chair, while we're waiting for Senator Moore, you mentioned having a meeting on the 28th of December.
Oh, yeah. Is that okay?
So I am available that day as well.
Great. And so what we talked about was that meeting would be the first where we would open to the public. So we could take public testimony, anyone interested in our topic, the charge that we have to write our report on. We give plenty of notice to the public through various media, so they could join our Zoom.
Senator Gordon, can you clarify, is it December 28th or January 28th?
January.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay. Yeah, December was just the issue would be between Christmas and New Year. I think a lot of people want to be on vacation. Secretary Poppy, do you have something to say? You're on mute, though.
I had the same clarifying question, just making sure it was January and not December.
Yeah, because we wanted to go past December because of the December holidays, and then we have MLK Day. So it was and then there was a conflict with the commissioner from civil service, which he's been just so valuable. All of you are valuable, but I wanted to make sure that he could be there. So the 28th is the first available Friday, which is convenient for us as legislators on the commission, because the other days we potentially could get called in for session.
And this meeting would start at 10 a.m.
At 10 a.m. Yeah. And then we would, and as I said before, we would try to get it finished at noon, so that for not only for your schedules, but also so that if we get a tremendous response, we can stage the testimony to a different day, so people aren't waiting around for 3 or 4 hours to talk.
As soon as you're ready, I'm ready, but
Ready,
continue
Senator.
with what you're doing.
We can hear you. Nope, go ahead. We can hear you. I think we're all
Okay.
set.
All right, great, thank you. Sorry for the delay. Well, so far, the subcommittee that we're chairing has met 6 times. Across these 6 meetings, we've heard from various speakers, including the Mass Association of Minority Law Enforcement Officers, Boston Firefighters Local 718, and the Boston Fire Department. We've had several towns come in that the MMA has arranged for us. And we've had the Mass Association of Professional Law Enforcement address the committee. At our most recent meeting, the subcommittee, we began discussing some of the recommendations that we want to make to the full commission. So far, the committee has identified the following recommendations, which was just discussed by Mass Corrections. One would be reducing examination fees, enhancing recruitment, empowering the Civil Service Commission to award appropriate fees and costs, providing the option of an annual exam rather than having a mandatory annual exam. Civil service was 2 years, that we're going to go to a yearly exam. We've had some conflicting testimony, whether it's from some of the municipalities, whether that would be actually benefit them or hurt them. So we want to give them the option. Allowing applicants to take the civil service exam before they are of the minimum age. So as they turn the minimum age, they would be within several months of taking the exam. So if the exam was, say, December 1st, and Makufu, you need to be, I shouldn't say Makufu, Corrections, their exam, you need to be 21. Well, if it's November that you turn, if it's a month after the exam in January, we don't want to see the person hurt and have to wait another year or 2 years to take the exam. So would like to have some sort of range, to have someone that might be a little short in the age, but would turn that age during the process. The subcommittee has another meeting coming up Monday, December 13th at 11 a.m. We're planning to discuss some more potential recommendations, such as the expansion of cadet programs, creating partnerships with the state's community colleges and Mass Higher Career Centers, allowing the distribution of scores to other cities and towns, and establishing a requirement for diversity, a diversity plan before a municipality is allowed to leave civil service. So those are what we've been working on and what we've worked on and what we need to discuss further. And I can take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for that report. I appreciate it. And so for your subcommittee and the others, what we'd love to see is essentially a written memo that we could use, because my thought is as we create our overall report, we can use these memos as guides as to your recommendations.
Okay.
I'm interested in a few things that you mentioned. The annual exam as an option. So how do you foresee if, and again, you may have not thought this all the way through, I don't know, but how would you see it play out? In other words, the civil service, HRD makes the exam available. A city or town can either, if they don't want it to be annual, let's say it's given annual, there's access to it annually, but a city wants to remain every other year. How does that interplay?
Well, we would be envisioning either an opt-in or opt-out kind of scenario. And I'm going to refer to Boston, because I think we heard from them first that having a yearly exam would actually make the process harder for municipalities, because just the process and hiring. By the time you have the exam, it gets certified, and then you start the interviewing process and all the other related process. It could be a year goes by, and now you've got the requirement of having an exam come up. So for someone, I think for more of the large municipalities, it would be more difficult for them to have a yearly exam, because they wouldn't even have time to go through the exhaust the list that they've established. So would have to work with civil service on some sort of either opt-in or opt-out type of options for the cities or towns.
Have you heard from anyone from a large municipality other than Boston on this issue?
We have, Mark, are you on the line? I can,
I think I can help a little bit in some clarification of what the senator is describing. In Worcester, as another large municipality that we deal with this, the annual entrance exam is, for all the reasons he set out, it's providing some difficulties. And I think what could answer your question of how an opt-in format would work and help, we could compare it to the existing promotional exam process, that if a municipality opts in, the civil service gives the promotional exam process annually. However, that list is good for 2 years. If say Worcester has that exam this year, but exhausts the list before the exam next year, they can opt into next year's as well and have a promotional exam 2 years in a row. But otherwise, if they don't exhaust that promotional list, then that list stays active for 2 years until the subsequent test is taken. So it could, as an entrance exam format in opting in, mirror what they already do for the promotional process.
Would the exam would be given? Would the exam be given essentially anyway? Would applicants have or test takers, potential workers, have the opportunity to take it anyway? And then I'm just confused about how it would work, where now you're talking about new hires, and so the civil service or HRD announces, okay, we're going to have an exam on a particular day in a particular place, how would it work that if that happened, but the municipality has not opted in and wouldn't consider it a particular year's result?
When you take the entrance exam, you elect the communities that you would be taking the exam for. If there was a local option to not be part of that annual process, then you would not be able to elect to be in that. As it is now just changed and set up, an annual exam, the new list is then folded into the existing list that is good for 2 years. So it's an evolving list. In this way, if a municipality did not opt in, then those test takers, their names would not be folded into the existing list. That list would stay stagnant for those 2 years because the community didn't opt in, which is the way the promotional exam that they operate already exists.
So, Mr. Chairman, right now, as he was saying, if I was going to take the exam, I would fill out there'd be a list of the communities that I want my name to go to.
Mhm.
So if, in theory, I guess you could have whatever communities don't want to be part of that exam, the community name might not be on the list for someone to opt into. But that would be just the fine tuning it where really would have to be left up to civil service on how they would like to see it.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Well, okay. You said one of the on your list was the employer could award fees and costs. Does that mean tell me what that means? Does that mean as far as the exam goes?
Yes, that would cover the exams.
So the municipality could pay the cost of the exam. So
yeah, I'm gonna need further. Mike, do you remember what that is, Pagani?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that had more to do with the cost of appeals and challenges to where right now the civil service is not empowered to give recruitment fees and costs to, say, someone who is taking an entrance exam and then chooses to challenge a bypass from a list they're on or an issue they have through civil service, whether it be if they're bypassed for any reason. That civil service is not empowered. I believe they're empowered right now to give them someone who challenges it $600. And this would give them greater power to hold communities accountable when they're making bypasses that seem to be suspect.
okay, so that would be consistent with many of our employment laws in the private sector, which makes sense. You mentioned that before leaving civil service, you would look to a diversity plan. I think that was the last.
Yeah. So we had several municipalities come before the subcommittee, and we can get everyone a list of those. I don't have them in front of us. But the municipalities that came before us, when they talked about the amount of that have left the civil service, there wasn't a big increase in diversity in their hiring pool. So if the intent of the municipality is to make the hiring process more streamlined, which is fine, but there's got to be some. They couldn't justify an increase in hiring of people of color or women or other types of people in that classification. So we thought if you're in civil service, that if you're going to leave, then you should have to justify how are you going to maintain or increase that level of diversity in your hiring.
It's a good idea, especially where a municipality may say that's why they want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I know that this list you gave is not exhaustive, and I appreciate that you're still the work is still ongoing, and you're meeting again next week. So
In all honesty, our last meeting, we thought we were going to be able to go through all the potential recommendations, but there's a credit to the subcommittee. Everyone is discussing these. There's a lot of thorough discussion on this, and a couple of these agenda items that we had just took a lot longer than we thought would take.
yeah, that's how Chair Brady and I hoped it would work, really. And so thank you for making use of this time.
Oh, no, thank you. Is there any other questions we can try to answer?
Anybody else? Chair Brady, did you have anything to add?
No, Mr. Co-Chair, I'm fine.
Okay. Anybody, I mean, we've reached the end of our agenda. Anyone have any other issues we want to raise before we break? Okay, so overall, because this is our last meeting of the calendar year, and I really appreciate the involvement of everybody. So what we're looking at is that our deadline to file our overall report has been extended to the 30th of March. And we'll be having at least 2 more of these types of subcommittee reports because of the number of them that we have. Again, 1 or 2 meetings for the public. And if you think of any other reason for us to meet, any other studies we should do together, either we're here now or just email me and we can discuss that at our next open, at our next meeting.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Going back to the, thank you. Going back to the public meetings you want to have, the only thing I would suggest is maybe looking at having 3, one for Eastern Mass, 1 for Central Mass, and 1 for Western Mass. That's the only other thing, just to give equal access to the various communities.
Yeah, I'm thinking that we'll likely continue to do it virtually because we've really not had the go ahead to do anything different from that. And for the reason that you said, I've been so impressed overall with the flexibility that some of our virtual hearings have provided for people from geographically diverse areas of the state. Some people sometimes, I mean, we've had access to get testimony from places I don't think we could have received testimony from. I'm talking about our hearings that we've done. So unless we get a go ahead to do things differently, I think that they can come in from anywhere to any of our virtual hearings. And it's just a question of how many come at all. I don't anticipate they have to travel to do it.
Okay.
But if we can do that. We can go to different places. So far, I'm still concerned with, our health situation, and the incident of the virus is going up and not down at the moment that we're speaking right now. So I don't know that I could commit to doing any. I don't know that any of us could commit to doing anything in person much into the future.
Okay.
If
I just wanted to suggest.
The commission agrees. Senator, I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to suggest that, 'cause I know if the virtual meetings, sometimes if you have too many people on, not everyone gets the opportunity to speak and weigh in. That would be my only concern.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Let's see who responds. And if we have a great number like that, then we could certainly organize it that way. That's a great option.
Okay, thank you.
We should keep in mind to see who signs up. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I haven't, hearing no further questions, a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. We are motion to adjourn carries and okay, and I'm seeing some things in the chat. But before we adjourn, there was some comment. I don't know if anyone's got any comments left. Okay, so we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in January.
Have a nice holiday.
Thank you.
Have a nice holiday, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you.